Good evening, friends and viewers. Today we are going to talk a very important issue. We are going to talk and a topic that is very important or relevant with our economy. That is post-pandemic B2B growth strategy. As we all know, that SME sector means small and medium enterprise. SME sector is the backbone of any economy, and it has got a huge potential to grow. But during the COVID, it took a very big hit, very big hit. So we need to understand that post-pandemic, what should be the growth strategy for B2B market for the SME. Because it's a SME kind of the SME strategy for B2B kind of the business. So means the SME or the small and medium enterprises, they are the major contributor of our economic growth. And we have more than 6.3 crore SME or the small and medium kind of the industries in India. But mostly their products are not branded. Product or the service, whatever they have, that is not branded. That is also a big problem. Mostly they are the supplier, vendor, or the OEM, means original equipment manufacturer of some big organization. And that is why actually we don't find many big success stories from SME to a big corporate, particularly India. But nowadays it's happening, but still the numbers are not that big because there are some SMEs who are actually dependent on totally export. Basically, they are the export houses. So SME means also contributes more than 50% of our export-oriented means products, means export-oriented manufacturing products. But during the COVID, it took a very big hit. The growth was into minus quadrant basically. It was minus 42 positive means plus 80, 8 plus 8, this kind of the range. So we understand what kind of the situation it was during the COVID. So it is very pertinent, it is very important for us to understand and discuss what should be the growth strategy for SME in B2B market, business to business, because most of the means SME actually deals in the B2B space. So we'll means discuss this topic in our means coming up sessions as well. Today is the first session. It's a series one, and later on we'll also be discussing in our subsequent programs. So many suppliers actually was means out of the flow during the COVID situation. So that was a big problem. So we understand that they are also major contributor to the growth in our economy as well as in the job area. So many people become jobless. So that is the thing we are going to discuss in our in this session as well as in our coming up session. So, what do you think, Mr. Majumdar? What could be the thing? What is your point of view?
First of all, my best wishes to our viewers who are watching this program on a regular basis. We are getting a very good feedback on the program that we have launched, and this has started a conversation in the SME sector. And we are able to, talk to SMEs and get connected to them, and that is how we are evolving this program into better and better programs. Having said that, I think the last 2 years have been very bad for the SME sector because SMEs are largely small organizations which do not have a lot of financial muscle, do not come from business backgrounds, and obviously, when the whole economy collapsed, they were very badly hit. So, typically, if you look at the SME sector, it contributes uh, about 25 to 30% of the GDP is being contributed by the MSME sector. And during the COVID times, as Mr. Mukherjee has rightly said, that it has hit negative growth. So this has created, a huge problem in the growth of the economy as such. And also, we know, just like everybody else, the SME entrepreneurs were struggling with their own personal crisis during the COVID time. So many of them would have lost their own. near and dear ones, and business obviously has taken a backseat. Okay, so that being the case, it also depends. The success of the business will depend upon the physical and the mental health of the entrepreneurs. And obviously, just like everybody else, they many of them were taken aback as COVID hit them, and business has hit rock bottom. Meanwhile, the customers have stopped buying. There had the entire customer segment, which they were trying to build over a period of time. They kind of disappeared during that period. Okay, so in the process, since there were no customers, even as many of them tried, they somehow could not get their cash flows inside. This was also the time when businesses were not required to look at profitability, and people were giving away freebies or giving away uh, you know values without asking a price from the customer, because knowing that the customer is not in a position to pay. So obviously a lot of businesses are giving away as a social initiative. They have been giving away their products and services without a premium, without even pricing, and some of them were even priced but at a very low price. The price was not in the hands of the entrepreneur. It is not a free market situation. So whole process was the SMA growth has hit a rock bottom. As we know that SMEs do not get the best financing, they don't get the best support. The policies are not meant for them. So obviously, the struggle kind of aggravated and took businesses back. Maybe 5 years back, many of them have stopped businesses. Many had to change direction to keep them surviving, and whatever plans they had to be re-altered because COVID did not allow them to continue with their plans. Okay, and it is only now, after 2 years, that we are seeing in 2022 there is a sincere attempt of building the businesses after losing the efforts over there. So here is a time when businesses are slowly looking upwards, when customers are slowly trying to buy new things, but this is a completely new, different customer. It is not the old customer, because customers have also gone changes during COVID time. Their priorities have changed, their requirements have changed, and whatever luxury items they used to buy pre-COVID, they are not going to buy now. So now it is the time for more utility, for humanitarian products, and people and things which people would need for their life, for their health, and for not for the luxury part. So all the elements that were there, or the products and the services that were there for luxury, have all taken a beating, and that is not going to come back soon. But the best part, what has happened, is the digitization, which I'm sure we are going to cover in the later part of the discussion. But the best part that has happened is digitization, which means that SMEs are able to offer products and services to their customers from through the digital model, and that's how the customers do not are not stepping out of their homes, and it's available at their home. So in the best interest of both the customer as well as the entrepreneur, digitization has kind of changed the landscape of the SME business, because businesses SMEs are typically not the tech savvy businesses. But with COVID, I think even SMEs have jumped the technology bandwagon, and they are offering products and services from the technology point of view, tech savvy products and services. So there are digital products, digital services, connectivity with the customer through apps, the doorstep delivery, refund services. So without having a physical infrastructure, it is possible to run businesses, which I think is the positive part, or the positive takeaway from the entire collapse of the economic system for the SME. So I think this is from this point of view. But on top of that, I would say, ask Mr. Mukherjee the next question, as to how can you say, how exactly did the SME segment suffer because of the COVID and
Yeah,
post COVID?
actually, means SME sector took a big hit during COVID because they are the most vulnerable in this case. COVID almost paralyzed all the sector, means all the SME sector, because they are almost, means the SME sector got totally paralyzed. The growth was in minus quadrant in many cases, and export took a very big hit. As we discussed earlier, that many SMEs are depending on the export, particularly the manufacturing means kind of the goods. they are all totally dependent on export. Means manufacturing products, means export-oriented product contributes more than 50% of the total products. So it's a very important area where they took a very big hit, and that means supply chain, total supply chain was actually defunct during this COVID situation. The supply chain was totally defunct, and they need to revive it, total new kind of the supply chain after COVID. That is the big question for them. And also local supplier was also totally paralyzed. They are not able to supply as and when the demand was coming, because it was almost centralized kind of thing during COVID period, because the things were not moving from one place to another place. So that was a very big challenge. And hospitality, food, beverage, entertainment, these are the areas where we have seen the maximum kind of impact, because these areas, these sectors are totally out of their means normal function. They are not functioning. They are not even functioning in their minimum capacity. So that is why they are asking for the big benefits or the kind of the concession from the government, but they are not means able to get it, because they are not given. They are given some kind of the benefits, but it was not to the means it was not actually enough means with the situation that they were in. So they were actually feeling means out of the circulation, and they are actually crying. And CMIE means projected or came out with the data that in April 2020 itself, more than 5 million people lost job. And after that also people lost, lots of the people lost the job in subsequent months. So that is why we can understand that how that SME was totally totally impacted during this COVID. It is not only India; it is across the world. But in India, we have more than 6.3 crore SME, and this 3.6 crore SME plays very important role for our economic growth. So it was almost a means the our Indian economy took a very big hit, and the GDP came down. So means in total scenario, the situation was very bad, and the lots of people actually lost job, and they were seeking employment. They are trying to get some kind of the employment in their local areas, because they could not move out. So that was a big impact, and this impact was felt across the world, and India was not even the exception of this phenomenon. So we could imagine the what kind of the things had happened during the COVID situation. So, Mr. Majumdar, to proceed further, what do you think that this kind of the situation has happened?
I think, as we really understand, things are very bad during the last 2 years. But as we continue, bring about a bit of hope in the whole process. 2022 is the year of hope, wherein we are moving ahead in our lives, and in the process, the entire SME segment has a lot to contribute to the growth of the economy of the nation. Let us remember that we have a target of $5 trillion by 2025. Now, this was the figure that was there pre-COVID. So hopefully we are moving towards a $5 trillion economy by 2006 or 2007. But yeah, it's a big figure to catch up. And if we assume that the SME segment contributes 25 to 30%, so the amount of revenue generation that has to be done by the MSME segment is huge. So, having said that, I think the positive lining is the digitization part, because this is the first time that digitization has brought both the bigger companies and the smaller companies on the same pedestal. Why? Because you can bypass the physical infrastructure build, which has taken decades for larger companies to build. That can be completely bypassed by a digital infrastructure, and products and services can be offered to them. So typically, the e-commerce sites are, if you operate from Amazon, or you operate from Flipkart, or you operate from uh, India Mart, which is a B2B segment, B2B marketplace. I think these are the websites that are allowing these B2B operators to reach out to the marketplace at anywhere within India. Okay, so that is a great advancement of technology, which is helping them reach out to the customer at anywhere in the country through the digitization process. At the same time, they are also supposed to have hub and spoke model. They are supposed to build a hub and spoke model so that they can deliver products to the customer at the easier positive time. So to build up the hub and spoke model, they have to rely on tie-ups and associations with nearby centers, so that these material can be supplied to them at the near easiest possible time. So that becomes the easiest method in the whole process. The whole SME segment has become very, very powerful in terms of their adaptability, because this technology is making put has put a lot of power in the hands of the SME player, and that enables them to reach out to the customer at the shortest possible time. So, what happens is, this is also a time when SMEs are actually building relationships with their clients. This is no more the time wherein you will sell a product and then forget about it, but it is taking a much more different route to reach out to the customers, because relationships are the reasons why customers from the are going to buy from the uh, business base, not because of the while the product quality is also there, but also the relationship. Because if I know you, I definitely can buy products from you. That means you have to build relationships, understand the customer, understand the requirements of the customer, and whether he's ready to buy today or tomorrow or 1 year down the line. This relationship building with the customer is a very new take in the post COVID scenario. Why? Because this also helps them to customize the products to the requirement of the customer and offer it at an opportune time. So every customer has a different timing, every customer has a different requirement. So that in fact helps them to reach out to them. This It also helps build a humane touch to business, which was not there. This humane touch has been enabled, one-to-one relation between a business and the customer, and that also helps them to grow. Also important to see that the B2B business, while people may say B2B business might be easier than B2C, because B2C you have to spend a lot on the advertisement, on the marketing and things like that. But B2B also has to remember that even B2B is not possible if that customer doesn't get his customer. So if we sell to our customer and if that customer doesn't get his customer, that system will not work. So essentially, it will become a B2B2C. So it makes a lot of sense to understand the business of the customer, and because if you help him grow, your business will automatically grow. So these are the few points. So it will be a B2 B2C model, wherein you are helping your customer to grow, and that customer is going to buy your products only if his business is growing. So these are a few intakes, or the few takes on the business growth that we are seeing vis-a-vis the pre-COVID timings. All said and done, this is a new world. This is a new world order. There are new customers, and SME is also new. The government is supporting the MSME segment. The industrial bodies are supporting the MSME segment. It is as if MSME segment is becoming a hotspot of growth. It's a new engine of growth of the country. So all said and done, this is a very good time for MSME sector to grow. Whatever it is, you are getting a system, you're getting a ecosystem, you're getting financial support from the government. The industry bodies are supposed to help you. You have a digital process where customers are willing to talk to you on a one-to-one basis. Put together, this seems to be a good time for MSME sector to grow. Okay, so I think all said and done, these are exciting times. Let us look at COVID, and let us hope that we have overcome COVID, and let us move forward as we move towards growth and profitability. From there, I think I must ask one question to Mr. Mukherjee, that I have to tell you now, if you can tell us something about what is an omni-channel and how is it relevant for the
Yeah.
MSME sector.
See, in today's scenario, that if digital products are playing major role in our life, it is a means it's a byproduct of COVID that we are now doing everything digitally. We are becoming tech savvy and we want to do the things in a digital way. So omnichannel was also earlier there, but it was not that popular or the people are not using. Now, what is omnichannel? Omnichannel means that you have to use online and offline in a seamless way. It is not multi-channel. Means that already you have a online process and already you have a offline process that is multi-channel. But omni-channel is that it has to be integrated. Your online process and offline process has to be integrated. That is omni-channel because it is very important that when you are interacting with your stakeholder, that could be your customer, that could be your supplier, vendor, or means whomsoever are there, it has to be a seamless communication and omni-channel communication. Because if you are interacting with someone physically, you have to interact with him or her also in digital, and that should actually merge. It has to be integrated, then only thing will happen. It is not a multi-channel that we have a online platform, we have a also physical presence. No, it is not like that. You must have a digital process and you must have a also brick mortar process, and these two processes must be interlinked and intertwined. That is the big question, because here the risk of implementation is there. It is not very easy to do it, because integration actually plays very important role. Because if you cannot integrate properly, your omni-channel strategy will not work. It will be a multi-channel strategy, means multi-channel process. But our objective is not to have multi-channels. Our objective to become an omni-channel service provider. So your online process that could be means through platform, mobile apps, or any kind of a devices, and your offline process means the way you do the business traditionally in a brick mortar way, that should converge. So it is very important. Because earlier these things were there, but people not were using to the extent that they should. But the COVID taught us that we need to implement all this process, and particularly means SME. SME in the B2B means marketplace, they were doing the business in a very traditional way. Some of them are using digital process because they are becoming the tech savvy. But the thing is that they are not using the omnichannel process. Even they are not having the expertise also. They are not having the expertise to implement the omnichannel strategy. So that is a very big question, and that is also a very big problem for them. We need to understand how we can implement the omnichannel strategy. Because after all, we should give a seamless experience to the customer. The customer should not wait for any kind of the means their problem to resolve. They should not waste the time, or even they want to actually buy anything, they should have that kind of the comfort where they can approach online and as well as the offline. Because suppose one some example I'm giving, the thing is that if I if I buy it, if I want to buy anything, suppose I'm moving, means I'm passing by a big retail. So the thing is that that kind of the information, if I want to be in my mobile phone, it will come that what kind of the things are there in the retail. I saw that immediately something came into my mind, and I got down from my car, went into the retail, purchased that. So this is the kind of the technology. Means we are also using the artificial intelligence. We are also using means machine learning, means also the smart technologies, but it has to be converged, because it is not a online platform, it is not a offline platform, it is online, it is mix of the online and offline, and that should convert to a particular point. And the customer or the vendor or the what whomsoever you are interacting, they should feel a seamless experience without wasting a single minute. That is the big question for the SME to implement that kind of a strategy. If they can implement this kind of a strategy, probably they can come, means they can come out from any kind of a situation. If anything happens also in the future, any portion actually become defunct, like what had happened during the COVID. The means traditional method means was totally out of fashion and they become paralyzed. But if they apply this kind of the multi-channel means omni-channel strategy, probably they can survive in any kind of the situation, and that is very important because Indian SMEs are not using. Most of the SMEs are not having the expertise, they are not having the technology. On top of that, they do not have that kind of a mindset. It is very true. You cannot deny that fact. So they actually took a big hit during the COVID, and the growth was in minus quadrant. In minus zone means that it was minus 42 plus 8. In between that, the figure was that. So if anything happens in the future, probably we can deal with the situation boldly if we apply the omni-channel strategy. So omni-channel strategy is very important. It is not a multi-channel strategy. It is not only the offline or the online, but it's a mix of the online and offline integrated in a seamless way. And the organization should have that kind of the process, that kind of the management to implement the omni-channel strategy. And that is actually has got a bigger impact than the digitization. It is not only the digitization, it is one step ahead of the digitization. So that is the thing they need to adopt. So that is my point of view that all SMEs should think how to implement that omni-channel strategy. Now, Mr. Majumdar, what do you think? What could be the next kind of the thing that you can that SME could implement or adopt?
Yeah, as we can understand, I mean, India is taking a giant leaps in terms of the technology front, and this is not going to end soon. As as it has accelerated the process, we are already on the next wave of digitization, and here we are talking of the metaverse. And the metaverse is the next big thing coming from the offering of Facebook. As we all know, Facebook is a huge social media platform which connects people across the world. And since they have successfully done that on a free platform, the Facebook is going to the next level where they can integrate the world of business through the virtual environment, which is a 3D model, and that might take the whole concept of digitization one step further. In short, if we take the example of going to a typical shop physically, that will be entirely replicated on a virtual mode in the metaverse. So each company can start a virtual store in the metaverse environment, wherein they can put up their 3D versions of their products and services, where a customer sitting at his home with the click of his mouse can actually visit the shop virtually, see what are the products and offerings are available, how it fits into his body, and then make the purchase. So the entire physical environment is being reflected, is being duplicated in the metaverse environment. But the beauty of it is that a physical store will only cater to local customers who will actually physically visit, whereas a virtual one, any customer from one end of the world can buy a product on the other end of the world by entering that shop virtually. Now this opens a great power in the hands of the small entrepreneur, especially because otherwise it would have taken him ages to reach out to that customer in Africa sitting here in India. But with the metaverse environment, it is possible for him to put up his shop virtually without spending money, and then do a little bit of computer simulation, a 3D environment, and then allow the customer in Africa to buy the product in India. Okay, so only process is, first of all, that is also has to be bought, but only process is to establish a supply chain wherein you can have to arrange for tie up so that the product is being delivered over there. So by the purchase is easy, the delivery is challenging, because now you will have to deliver the good from India to Africa, and that too within a very small stipulated period of time of 2 days or 3 days or 4 days, whatever is being stipulated by the company. Having said that, while that becomes the next challenge in terms of the supply chain, but definitely this opens up a big window of opportunity to the SME player, which was otherwise not available to him before COVID and pre, and even after COVID, the normal digitization process doesn't give him a seamless environment or the feeling or the experience of a shop that you can do it in a normal digital process, because here we are depending on various platforms and using them wherever we are required, but that does not give a seamless environment to them. So that is the biggest advantage of an SME player to depend or rely on metaverse, which becomes the next big thing for a development. Having said that, while metaverse does exactly what Facebook has done on a personal level, now metaverse will do it on a business level. So each entrepreneur at any part of the world can connect to a customer at any other part of the world with a back end supply chain management. So that becomes the a huge lot of power in the hands of the SME, which it wouldn't have happened. At the same time, we can also believe with the power of metaverse, metaverse will also be complemented by thought leadership, which we are propagating over the last few channels, because thought leadership is a futuristic mindset wherein we are thinking of futuristic products and services for the customer. And if we can complement both of them together, or we can club both of them together, the SME is geared to be the most powerful organization in the near future, because he has the latest state of the art products, state of the art service, a backend platform for in the metaverse for the for the offering that it has, and also a supply chain, global supply chain, which enables it to supply the product from one end of the world to the another. I think these are exciting times for SME, and as we see ourselves, metaverse clubbed with a thought leadership framework will be a great combination to take the SME from level A to level B or to level C or whatever level D at a very short period of time. I think these are a few small takeaways from what we see in the coming trend. As we have already been harping on the previous videos, thought leadership is the futuristic tool or a futuristic framework which is going to help businesses understand the pulse of the customer and offer products and services which the customer may need in the near future. So whatever it's a smart product, it involves the latest technologies, but also makes his life easier and easier. Just like metaverse is the next big version of Facebook, just like Facebook was a big thing a decade ago, and just like metaverse is a big thing now. I'm sure a clubbing of thought leadership as a mindset and a framework to support it will definitely give the biggest weapon in the hands of the MSME sector to go to the next level. Okay, so customers are always willing to take the state of the art products and services, and with the advent of technology, we'll be able to offer good products at good prices. We don't have to depend on the intermediaries for jacking the prices, and hopefully this will be a great time for businesses to go forward. I think that is how MSMEs can grow faster. That is how MSMEs can add to the contribute to the exports and also reduce imports, and that is how they can be a lifeline for growth for India. I think with that we kind of bring the discussion to a conclusion today. And those of you who are liking this discussion, please put your comments below and also connect us through the email IDs provided below, so that you can come on a customized discussion or a one-to-one discussion with us, so that your journey is being easier and helpful by the offering that we have today. Thank you on behalf of iStrategy Consulting and the Idea Factory, and we hope to come back with better and more powerful videos in the near future. Thank you. And anything to add, Mr. Tuhin Mukherjee, after I
No,
have added?
no, yeah, you have already mentioned, and we have delivered today's means, thing that we want to express to our viewers. So that's the kind of thing means we want to say. We will wrap up and we'll discuss all the other points in our subsequent session. So thanks a lot.